What's up, everybody? Mike Lamont from ChartYourTrade.com here. We are getting close to the end of the trading day, the end of the trading week, and so I wanted to go through our list of elite stock setups that we had last week that were presenting early entry points, that presented really good ideas, that are stocks that are leading market higher. And so let's take a look, see how some of those are doing, and also I want to give you the opportunity to save 15% off of the Elite Stock Setup service with coupon code SAVE15, SAVE15. So let's dive in, see what these stocks are doing. Okay, so the first stock up is Google. Google was setting up in a flat base, actually a base on base pattern. We see this double bottom over here, then it started to form this flat base, and it was presenting an early entry at 975.83. Fast forward to what it did this week, and right now we could see that it broke out. It is now trading at 990. It actually crossed that advanced pivot on halfway decent volume. Its volume is starting to pick up a little bit yesterday, not so much today, but volume, we always want to see volume in any stock that we buy. That's a great confirmation that a run will continue and has legs or staying power. But sometimes volume shows up later on in a move. So when it first crosses that pivot, it's less critical. We do want to see volume come in later on over the life of the trade. So that's just one tidbit. Let's take a look at the next one. Monster. Monster has not broken out yet. We see that it was setting up in another, could be forming a flat base. It is still a little early for the flat base. Actually, I would call this a flat base, but what it's really doing is pulling into its 10-week line, and it's getting ready to bounce off of it. In doing so, it's also formed this downward trend line, and so a break above that would trigger an entry. So we had the early entry point at 56.04. Hasn't triggered it yet, so that's still on the watch list. And it also hasn't taken out the support that we discovered last week, which is really around last week's low, coincides with the weekly high back from July 24th. Often we'll see prior resistance turn into support. That's what we're seeing here on Monster, and hasn't broken out yet. Next stock up. ResMed. This one actually did poke its nose just above the entry point at 77.70. So far it's chopped around back below that entry point, but it's still holding above support. So it's still worth hanging on to at this point. If it does fall below support and break the pattern, then that would be a sign to get out. But for right now, we're still holding on, and if for anybody that did, I believe we traded this one for the model portfolio, so if you're following that, it's in there. We are long in the model portfolio, so I think it's down maybe about 1% from that entry point. Still worth hanging on to at this point, still leading stock, and that's ResMed. Let's move on. Facebook. Okay, so Facebook had an early entry at 171.76. It is triggering that early entry point right now. We could see a nice support level form right around here. Sometimes what you'll see too is that a stock will break below support on a daily chart, but by the end of the week, it will recover back above support. So it's important to look at both dailies and weeklies, and when in doubt, always defer back to the weekly chart. That's going to give you the longer term trend, and it's what the institutions are going to follow, and it's what we should follow as well. Next up is Amazon. Amazon broke out earlier this week, and it is, the early entry point was at $978.78. Right now it's at $987.51. And it is back above that 50-day moving average. And if we look at the weekly chart, we could see that it held this 40-week line all the way up. And so when it started to consolidate and rally off of that 40-week line again, that presented another opportunity to get in as well. A lot of detail. We provide a lot of fundamental detail on all these stocks as well. So for anybody that wants to dig into the data, we make it real convenient for you. Stamps.com. Stamps broke out of its advanced buy point there. It had a little bit of a descending trend line as it gapped up on earnings, consolidated, waited for the 50-day moving average to catch up. It did, and now it's starting to break out again. Triggered the early entry at 212.75, currently trading at 216. So far, so good. Regeneron. Very early entry in a double bottom base, and it caught support right at the 200-day moving average or the 40-week line, depending on which chart you're looking at. And it's attempting to recapture the 10-week line. It just broke above the 50-day moving average. The early entry is 469.78, and it is right around there right now. Triggered it yesterday, just below it today, well, within just a couple of cents. So anybody that's in there is still more or less break even. The trade desk. Very nice breakout today. Does have the volume confirmation if we zoom in on that day right there today. Nice volume on the breakout. The early entry point was 62.78, currently trading at 64.25. Looking great so far. There are some of the other entries that we've discovered along the way, and it's just been a really good play. This one has appeared on Cherry Trade MRI many times as well. Workday. Workday broke out earlier this week. The early entry point was 107.27. Presently, it's trading at 110.31. This is one that kind of pulled in and was chopping around for a little while, you know. And when you find a leading stock, it's very important to keep it on a watch list and not just discard it because it breaks out and then it rolls over and it stops us out. You know, it's real easy to get upset and pissed off at when those kinds of things happen, but keep it on a watch list anyway because it could still be a leading stock. And if it does turn out to be a leading stock, we want to look for another way to get in. Just because it stops us out once doesn't mean that the stock's a loser. So far, it's set up again, it broke out, and it's breaking out on above average volume from what we saw today, and so far it's proving to be a winner. So far so good with Workday. Next up is Autodesk. Autodesk broke out as well. The early entry was 113.57, currently trading at 116.72, looking good across the board. And you notice that all of these stocks that we're picking up so far, they all have solid uptrends on the weekly chart, and we're identifying the exact early entry point on the daily chart. That's how you identify the broader trend on the weekly chart, and you identify the exact entry point on the daily chart. Next up is WestRock, WRK. Alright, so the early entry point for that one was 58.37. It triggered it today, and so far it's just below that early entry point. Still looks great on the chart, still finding support along that 40-week line. That's where support is. And in a lot of the stocks recently, they've been chopping around, they've caught support. They let these longer term moving averages catch up to them, and that's where it builds this longer term support. And that's the kind of support that you really want to see, because if it breaks that, then you know that, okay, time to get out of this, and that the idea was wrong. So it's always important to know where you're going to get out before you're going to get in, and the more solid the spot where you're going to get out, the better entry point we're able to find. So kind of reverse engineering the trade there. Next up is Lumentum Holdings, ticker LITE. The early entry was at 60.10. and it has not triggered that yet, so still below that early entry point. Another common theme again, look at this 40-week line. Look how it's catching support at that 40-week line. Very consistent, so all things that we want to look for. And that was the last one, so I hope that was helpful for you. Again, check these stocks out. It takes a long time to try to do this kind of work on your own. All the scanning, looking for stocks with the right criteria, zooming in on stocks in leading industry groups, finding the exact pivots, all that stuff, finding support, more importantly, all that stuff takes a great deal of time. It could take like up to 20 hours if you're new, or if you have experience, those of you know, it probably takes a good, like anywhere between 5 to 10 hours just to compile the list, scan down it, and really research these stocks. All this stuff is done for you, and given to you, for a very low entry price. I believe the regular price is about $47 a month, or about $500 a year. Save 15%, spend less than $10 a week. Use code SAVE15, SAVE15, and for less than $10 a week, you'll have all these great opportunities that will more than pay for themselves in just a single trade. So that's all I have for you right now. Hope you got a bit of education out of it. Hope that you'll check out the service, and I hope that I'll see you again very, very soon. Thanks for watching.